All right, YouTube. So it's time to jump into doing some body work. I decided I was going to do the rocker panel first. So in this episode, we are going to try to cut pieces of this and replace pieces on that. So stick around. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is take a look at what we have and see what we are going to take apart. So again, this is the passenger side. This, as far as the rocker and the cab corner, are the worst part of the outside of the cab. So as you can see, this side has some rust there, the outside here, and working our way forward, and then another spot there. Now, my plan is to remove smaller sections of this and replace just what I need. The ends look in pretty good shape. There's nothing wrong here. And really outside of this one spot right here, we're in pretty good shape. Up around here in the A-pillar, around the front, everything looks like it's in good shape. Let's get underneath real quick. So there's the worst part, is right there. And the inside rocker is in great shape. So I'm not going to really worry about messing around with that. This is the other thing that I got really lucky with this truck. These cab mounts are just about perfect. So that's one thing I don't have to worry about replacing the cab mounts. You can see that rear one is in really good shape. And again, this whole underside. So that's why I don't really want to take the entire rocker off if I don't have to. Now I say that, and again, as we start to dig into this, I might be mistaken. But because that's so good underneath and the inner rocker, I don't want to cut into this area up here and try to pull this whole thing off if I don't have to. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut a section out of this middle here, and I'm just really hoping that the patch panel will match these body lines pretty close here. So I made a mark 2.5 inches away from this lip. That's why I know there's nothing underneath it here, and we're just going to make a straight line across here. Okay, so that's going to be about the first cut. I'm just going to use that lip as a square. So I ended up running some blue tape just to help my eyes see the lines that I want to cut. And then ground down a little bit of the paint here, and there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spot welds that we're going to go ahead and knock out. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a drill bit, make a little pilot hole. And again, I just want a little hole so that the spot weld cutter will seep, but I don't want to go all the way through, because again, I'm trying to not damage the inner rocker, which is in good shape. Okay, so a little banging, a little prying, and we're able to get this chunk out. I'm going to go ahead and cut the patch for this, clean this up, get this patch on, and then probably come back and hit this spot over here. And this might be small, and then I may end up doing 2 small ones here. Like I said, I just want to leave as much metal as I can, and just, even though these are small patches, it might take me longer to do than if I did the whole rocker. I think it would probably be better for me to leave as much of this intact. So let's go ahead and get this patch cut out, and we'll clean this up and be ready to go. Got the piece cut out, so now we want to lay it out on the rocker panel. I kind of dressed up the edges a little bit so we try to lay as flat as possible. And maybe I'll show you once I cut it out, but the corners don't quite match up exactly. Hopefully when, there's nothing underneath of it, it'll be a little better. And then I got the bottom piece, which completely broke out, which we're gonna stick underneath of here and basically trace out this piece to then cut out to make the patch panel. So I just push this down as tight as I can get it. We're gonna take our marker. Okay, so we got our line. So we'll go ahead and cut this out, and then I'm gonna stay obviously on the strong side of the line because then I'm gonna come back and then trim it into place. So we're gonna leave a good bit on that side and then just start trimming it down to fit into our hole. So let's get this cut out. So fitting it up, if I hold this corner tight right here, then I'm right on it with this line. So I'm not gonna be able to take much out back here because again, I cut too close to the line. The same with this side. If we hold this corner there, I mean, it's right on with just a slight bit of gap, which is what we need. As far as all these corners, it looks like it's pretty close. This is an AMD rocker panel. And I think when I do go to weld it, I'm gonna focus on this corner and probably this corner here because that's what's gonna show. Clearly this will show when the door's open, but for the most part, the door is gonna be closed. So I might have to knock this around a little bit to get this corner out, but we're a long way from that. So right now what we need to do is cut down the edges a little bit to get it to sit in there, and then we'll just keep fitting. So I think this is the part where I will take forever, or I'll at least go slow to make sure I get this right. Because again, I cut it maybe, let's just say 1/8 of an inch, maybe a 1/16 of an inch big, so that I can come back and have room to kind of fit it. I think I'm going to try to fit the panel and not mark here and then cut this out. I think I'm going to try it with the whittling down the panel. First time I've done it, so we'll just see how it turns out. It's time for a little bit of slow trimming work. So after a bunch of grinding, this is where we are. So this corner is on here pretty good. This isn't bad. When this magnet pulls this bottom corner in, and when this one pulls it in and this one lines up these two corners, this back lip is sitting up proud, probably about the thickness of the metal. So this top lip is going to have to get bent down a little bit before we're ready to weld it. And I think I need to do a little bit more fitting underneath of here because I don't think it's sitting flush back against the rocker panel. But we're close, we're getting there. Took a while to kind of grind it slowly and try to fit it all at the same time. And you can kind of see I got a little bit of a wide gap at the top. So that was where I probably was a little too close to the line to start with, but the rest of it's starting to kind of shape up, pretty good. I think I'm at to the point that I'm just about ready to weld in this patch. I went ahead and drilled the holes for the spot welds on the back side because again, I think I'd rather drill it from behind or weld it from behind, as I practice my rosette welds or spot welds. That'd be probably less to grind or not worried as much seeing it. The other thing is I took a wire wheel on the end of a long rod, put it in my drill and ran it inside of the cavity and just tried to do the best I could to knock down as much scale as I can. Figured while the hole was there, I'd go ahead and do that. And then I just stuck the end of a spray can in here and sprayed a rust converter all up inside the rocker. And then the silver on here is just a weld through primer. I put that on the inside there and on the inside of this lip here where the spot welds are going to come through. So I figured I'd just do the best I can to knock down some of the rust and coat it. Once I get this all finished, I'm going to hopefully take this plug out that's on this end and stick one of those internal frame painter nozzles, whatever you want to call it, down inside the rocker and again spray it and see, to try to encapsulate more of the rust. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to do here is stretch that metal a little bit right there. This corner's good, this corner's good, and that corner's good. Right where that weld is was flush, and I got just a little bit of a high spot right here. So I'm going to try to work this down a little bit more, and I got a little bit of a high spot right here. So we're going to try to tuck that in a little bit, which would bring this, I guess this little curve here is sitting a little high on the patch too. So I'm thinking if I can tuck this in, it'll bring this corner in, and if I can get this straightened out just a little bit more, then we'll be good on this side. And I did put a couple tacks in over here just to hold it, and then there's just a couple spots underneath I want to tack, and then of course the spot welds on the back. This gap up here is bigger than I had hoped, but I think once I get this locked in, this side pretty much locked in, I'll be able to, this is sitting up really high here, so this lip's going to have to go down. So let me keep knocking around on this a little bit, and then we'll come right back. So this is pretty much welded in. Got a small little hole to fill in here. It's pretty flat. I got to grind down some welds here. Got some pretty ugly welds up on top here, and unfortunately this gap ended up being a lot wider than I realized at the top. Got this corner locked in, and right to here. Got to grind that down a little bit more. Hopefully someday I'll get a little better welding. I, again, didn't do this corner because this whole piece here is going to come out. So we're doing a little more grinding, fill in some more of these holes up top, and then I'm going to get underneath and do the rosettes underneath and move on to the next patch. So what we're going to do next is we're going to work on this spot. So this actually broke through when I was doing some grinding, so that must have been very thin, and this always needed patching. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get some tape on here, again, just as a visual line for me to follow with my cutoff wheel. I'm going to break this, or I'm going to cut this a little bit closer to the edge than I did the first one, just to move away from this one seam. And then we're going to come in right inside of where I blew through with my grinder. And I'm not going to go all the way underneath because the underneath again is really solid, so I'm not going to worry about that. So we're going to cut right across where this curve is, and then come down over here. And I kind of started grinding away a little bit, and this gets really solid in here. So we're going to basically cut this patch out right here. I'm pretty close with all the trimming, and this is where I got a little impatient on this one. My dad used to always try to teach me patience, and obviously sometimes it didn't stick. So this is pretty close, but just like this one, this top lip is up a little. So this corner here needs to bend down a little bit. So I think I'm going to actually try to do that on the bench with a, a hammer, and just try to tap it down a little bit. On this one, I tack welded it in and then tried to knock it down with a hammer once it was in. And I don't think that was probably the right way to do it. I probably should have, manipulated it a little bit more before I actually welded it in. So I'm going to put a different, I'm going to put like a 60 grit in my grinder and smooth these edges a little bit more, do a little bit more fitting, try to fold this down a little bit, and we'll be back and see how that fits. After a lot of trimming, I think we're ready to go. So this lip right here still sits up a little proud, but here, these corners are all pretty tight and on. This corner's good. So I'm gonna tack it in these basically 6 spots, and then try to work this top down just a little bit to hold everything in place. Right here is really good. So I think we're all set here. The bottom can tuck in a little bit, but again, I think once I secure it, we'll go ahead and tap it around a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna let that cool off, and unlike the last one where I probably welded too much, I might start to cut this next patch out and then come back and hit it and keep going back and forth instead of kind of putting a lot of heat on the weld. So we'll cut this one out next and start the same process. After a bunch of grinding and a little bit of bending and shaping, I've got these last 3 patches ready to go. So gaps are pretty good on these. Everything looks like it's lining up pretty good. Again, I was really concentrating on these, these corners here, and on this one patch over here, this bottom corner down here. So we'll go ahead and get these tacked in, and I'll come back with a couple final thoughts on how I did this project. Okay, so I got these pieces tacked in. So I didn't finish all the welding yet and all the grinding. I'm not going to bore you with just sitting here watching me weld and grinding because I need work on my welding. A couple things I learned from just doing this first little bit here, or mistakes I made. First mistake was I didn't clean all of the area off with, a strip disc or something like that before I started working. So what ended up happening is I cut this first piece out, and then when I started to move down, some places the metal was so thin that it was basically the paint was the only thing there. So I broke right through. So, I've seen other people do it, and they said you want to strip the paint off, and I didn't do that. So that was a mistake. So that's one thing I would definitely do different. If I had done that and I might have seen the amount that needed to be replaced on this, again, I ended up, replacing a good bit here. I probably should have done this in one big patch. I probably could have left the corner still on both sides and been happy. And it probably would have taken me half the time to cut one big piece and fit one piece onto here instead of doing these small pieces. So lesson learned, I should have stripped everything back. I should have maybe done one bigger piece instead of a bunch of these small ones because it just took so much time. And I still have to do all the welding and grinding to finish. I mean, all the pieces still need places, again, filled in. So, live and learn. That's what I'm finding out as I go through, again, this first attempt at it. So I plan to apply those lessons when we come back here on the next episode and we start working on that cab corner, because that'll be next. So hopefully you're getting something out of these videos. Please like and subscribe. Please give me any comments or feedbacks on how you would have done it differently, or if I've made other mistakes. I know my seams aren't great in some cases. I'm still trying to dial my welder in. If you see anything or hear anything when you're watching me weld, I'll take anything I can get, because like I said, I'm new at it and trying to go. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time on Old Maryland 63 C10 when we tackle our cab corner. Thanks a lot.